I'm teaching today about how to organize your craft room, your craft space, your supplies in stages, and hopefully try to get past that overwhelming feeling that you might have of, oh my gosh, if I take everything out and look at it and then I'm just stuck in this mess, then what do I do next? So I'm going to give you 5 steps or stages, easy places to break down each part of kind of this plan of attack. And hopefully this will help you feel a little more ready to take it on. So make sure you download the kit for this class. I'm going to explain in just a minute like what the pages are and how we're going to use them. So I invite you to go print those out right now, and then you can work on them while you're watching this class. I'm going to give you a peek into my craft area and kind of show you that I am working right along with you. This is generally what my space looks like after I've done just a few projects. Things just get moved to the side. I make a new clear space. I move those things to the side, and whatever your area might look like right now, you are in good company. So I have split the process up into 5 stages. So now let's get deeper into each stage and what you're going to do in these stages. All right, so stage number 1, you are going to make a list. So the first thing you want to do is print out the organization kit that comes with this class. You are going to find a sheet where you can just jot down all of the different things you have in your craft room. There is another page for notes if you just kind of think of something while you're working, or later on if you want to make a shopping list or a shop your house list of storage, options and solutions that you need to collect or buy or, look for in your local free group. The kit has a third sheet that just has some colored bars on it. That's what we're going to use to make our labels later. And if you want these little label tents to be sturdier, then you can print this out on cardstock. You'll probably need a couple sheets. One sheet will give you 8 labels. Next, you're going to grab the list paper and a pen or a pencil and just start jotting down the types of materials and tools and supplies that you know that you have. And I kind of like to do this outside of the craft room. I think it feels a little bit less overwhelming that way. And you can even do it like while you're doing something else. Put on a show, sit on your couch, and just from memory, start writing down different things. If you know you've got vinyl, you've got some fabric, you have patterned paper and solid cardstock. You've got some watercolors or some stamps. Next, you're going to go into your crafting space and add in anything else that, you maybe forgot. Then you're going to give each item a number 1 or 2 or 3. You can just write it off to the side. And this is to just kind of start to give an idea for the space that you think you're going to need to store that amount or volume of items. For example, to put down a number 1 would be, okay, I just have a small amount of things, or this doesn't take up very much space. So it would fit in just like a little plastic craft drawer. Like for me, I have a very small stamp collection. And so I just have a few of them. So I know those will fit in a little drawer. If you have a much larger stamp collection, you might know that I need something that's a box, a shoe box or a little bigger even. So that would get a number 2. Finally, if you have a large volume of something, you may need a whole Rubbermaid bin with a lid or something. And you're not, married to these numbers. This is, again, just kind of brainstorming and getting an idea of the space that you're going to need for that item. Next, we've got stage 2. Cleaning. And for this step, I'm going to give you an extra little challenge where I want you to set up a camera or your phone and take a time-lapse video. So if you go to your video options, you should be able to find a time-lapse one, and you're going to set that up towards the space that you're going to be cleaning. So the first thing you're going to do is just pick up the floor. I like to start with the floor because I hate feeling like I'm stepping over things or stepping on little bits of trash that are on the floor. And so this right away makes a big difference. You're just going to pick anything up off the floor and move it. You can just set it off to the side. You can put things into bigger boxes so they're kind of contained, and then you're going to vacuum. Then you're going to clean off any flat surfaces. So if you have like a desk or a work table in your craft space, you're going to make sure that everything is cleared off of there. Even if it's something that is going to eventually live on the desk or on the table, you need to still clear it off. And to finish off, you're just going to wipe down any flat surfaces. Then you can take that time-lapse video and you can watch it back. And I'm not sure what it is, but it is ridiculously satisfying to watch all that work back and in fast motion, just see everything quickly get cleaned up. It's for some reason like a great motivator for me. Like if I turn on the camera, I'm gonna stick with it and keep doing the cleaning. All right, so that's the end of the second stage. And if you need to, you can stop here, go on to the next stage the next day. Okay, so stage 3, we're going to sort. So the first thing you're gonna do is take the label sheet that you printed out from the organization kit. If you've got a paper trimmer, that's great. You just split it right down the middle, then cut 3 lines the shorter direction. And so each piece is going to come out to be about 4.25 inches by 2.75 inches. And I like to fold these in half so that they stand up and make a little tent. I find that this is easier to see than just writing it down on a flat piece of paper and setting it on the table. And then you're going to start to write the different list items on those pieces of paper. So for example, I'm going to have one for paint, one for clay supplies, one for pens, one for vinyl. Okay, so you're going to set these little tents around your table and give them the space, or set out a box or a bucket or a little basket that you think might contain the stuff that you're going to put in them. For example, I know I don't have very much glitter, so I can just set the little glitter drawer right here and put my glitter label in front of it. I have this box here to put some vinyl. This is not going to contain all of my vinyl, but that way, as I am going through these boxes of stuff that I picked up off the floor and cleared off of the table, I have a place to put that vinyl before I go back and put them in their large plastic drawers. And then once you have those tent labels set out, you're going to start going through anything in those boxes that you've pulled from cleaning up and start grouping them next to their matching label. Here you're going to watch me just set out several different items into their groups and collections matching the label. And you're going to need to be a little bit flexible here too. Sometimes you have more stuff than you thought. For example, I knew I had some pens and I thought it would just fill up a couple of little pen holder cups. And as I kept finding more and more pens, I had to go find a box to start putting all the pens in because I had more than I thought I did. That's part of why we're doing this step. I see that I need to deal with all of these pens in a different way than I was before. When everything's sorted out, you're ready to go to stage 4, evaluate. You're going to go through each pile or grouping that you made, and you of course want to keep anything that you know you currently use. And I would also say, yes, it's okay to keep the things that you only think you might use. If you want to go into this like fully purging everything, that is totally fine, but you don't have to. So I'm giving you permission to keep some things that you don't know if you have a plan for yet, and you're going to find better ways to store them, and so that will be helpful for you in the future. Of course, if anything is trash or broken, you're going to just throw that away. If you have things that are in good condition that you truly know you're not going to use, then you can find a place to donate them. They can go to a charity. They can often go to schools, but maybe just check in with the school first to make sure that they do have a teacher that will use them, or they have a capacity to accept and kind of go through those items. You don't want to give them more work that they don't want to do, right? All right, now let's go back to that pen box that I told you about. Remember, I thought I only had a few. I could put them in just a couple little pen holder cups, and I ended up having this big, huge box. I had several kinds of Cricut pens, some that I had never used, pens that I purchased for my planner, all sorts of stuff. one of the things I did was to kind of help me through this keep and discard portion or stage. I sat down again with a show that I wanted to watch, and I got out some scrap paper and started testing every single one of those pens and markers. And I discovered that a lot of them were dried out and dead. So a little bit sad to feel like I was tossing a bunch of like these infusible ink pens that I hadn't ever used, but they're no good. So I don't need to find a place to store them. I learned kind of through this process, and then later when I was figuring out what to do with the pens that I was going to keep, I discovered that Cricut pens, and especially the infusible ink pens, should be stored tip down. And I was storing them all tip up. So I'm sure that contributed to their drying out. We have reached the final stage that I've called store. So really this is just storing things, putting them away, reclaiming your flat surfaces, your workspace. So for the first part, I have measure. This can be actual measuring with measuring tape, or just kind of getting a visual measurement in your head of like, how much space do you need to store what you have? Going back to my pen example, remember I thought I just needed a couple of cups to hold all my pens. Then I found tons of them and had them in a whole box. And then as I sorted through them and got rid of the ones that were dead, I pared it back down to a smaller number of pens. So now I know exactly how many pens I have that work. And so I can evaluate how much space I need to store those pens. I also have all this polymer clay and different tools that I use for working with the clay before it's baked, after it's baked, turning it into jewelry. It's really a lot of different things for every step of making the clay earrings, and I really just had no idea. If you'd asked me before, I would have thought, okay, I probably have about a shoebox worth of clay stuff. And then when I saw it all here on the table, I was like, oh, well, no wonder I always feel like my clay supplies are a mess. I'm not actually using the right storage for all the things that I have. So now I know that I either need a bigger box or container to put everything, or I need to have some very well labeled smaller boxes that can live in the same place in my craft room so I always know where they are. The next part is to learn, and that's where the rest of the classes in this summit are going to come in super, super handy. You're going to watch for other classes that relate to all of the things and all of the groups that you have out on your tables. If you have paper you need to store, or stamps, or card making supplies, vinyl, embellishments, fabric, any of those things, there are going to be other presenters talking on those specific items and different ways that you can store them, ways that you can maximize the space that you have. And so those are going to be really beneficial in this last step where you finally just put things away. And I know it can be tempting to, at this point, like run out and buy all new boxes or buckets or containers that all match or are all sparkly new, but you don't have to do that. Go ahead and check through the rest of your house, see if there are other baskets and bins, maybe even boxes that you can wrap with fabric or contact paper to make them a little bit prettier before you go buy new storage. And my final bonus tip that I am laughing on the inside as I say it is to clean up as you go and after you finish your projects. I am certainly not a shining example of this. It is something that I'm trying to work on. And one thing that's made it a little bit easier, after I finish a project, I'll give myself a number like 15, 20, 27, 30, anything like that. And I will pick up and put away that number of items, whether it's scraps of paper or tools or whatever. And a lot of times that gives me just enough of a jump start to say, okay, there's not that much left. I'll finish cleaning this up. And then my workspace is clean and at least mostly ready to go when I'm ready to sit down for my next project. If you have tips for cleaning up along the way or between projects, please let me know because I can clearly use some extra advice. So So I hope that was helpful and gave you some good ideas of how you can kind of break things up into these different tasks to make it feel more manageable. Thanks again for watching. See you around the internet. Bye.